Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. You've taken some of my very thoughtful and creative questions already, so I'll be brief. Dr. Schoenbach, to follow up on Chairman Nye's question about transferring that technology to businesses, part of the bill yesterday was the STTR provision, the Small Business Technology Transfer Program, and I'm just wondering if your university is able to, or if you target businesses who may already participate in that program as potential customers for your technology that you're developing at the university. If there's a way for you to get that information of recipients, in other words, of those entrepreneurs who are already involved with that are interested in taking the risk and developing the technology that a university like yours would use. It would seem to me that that might be a good program to look at for potential partners.
I think definitely STTRs, and we have done several of them, are a good vehicle, I think, to bring certain projects to fruition. And SBIRs as well, with subcontracts to the university. So this is a possibility, and that can be used. It doesn't work for all the projects. If you talk about these clinical studies, trials, and so on, they require, in my opinion, much more funding than is available through these STTRs. The other problem sometimes is with STTRs and SBIRs, especially if you go to, let's say, the Department of Defense, is that you have to see what's available. That means you have to find a match first before you can start working on it. And very often there is no match, because if, let's say, there is an innovation coming from a university, it might not have reached that state where somebody at DoD has made a decision, this is worth funding. That means there is a certain delay then in all these procedures. But definitely, I think, for many projects, this is it's an excellent program, and we have made use of it several times.
So the limitations on the program aren't so much in the way the rules are written, but as much in the grant award sizes don't allow for some of the research.
That's what my opinion is. In some of the projects require more funding. This is one obstacle, in particular if you go into biomedical applications. I think trials are probably very expensive. The other one is really trying to bring as quickly as possible innovations to industry. And the way to do it is, for example, I go into the internet and look at what is available at DoD. I'm an engineer, so this would be my first thing to do, go into the website of DoD. And then I see and I look through all the different topics which are offered. And some of them might fit, but most of them will not fit if I do something which is really innovative. So it requires some additional work, I think, to make people available, which takes time to do. So this is a matter maybe of involving the researcher more in the decision-making about topics which are worth funding. And I don't know how this is done, so this could be a procedural thing.
Sure. Okay. Mr. Barrett, you mentioned in your testimony that in addition to the R&D tax credit, perhaps we could offer some incentives for what I would interpret as like an accelerated depreciation or some kind of incentive for the capital required for the R&D. Is that what you're thinking of, as like an accelerated depreciation method for those investments, or do you have some specific ideas on what we could do as a part of the R&D tax credit to help lessen the burden required for some of the more capital-intensive research?
Well, I think that more rapid depreciation would be a very good thing, because in our business the hardware becomes obsolete much more rapidly than 5 years I think is the typical schedule, and it can become obsolete within a year, 2 years, depending upon the technology uses. So yeah, looking at that I think a little bit more carefully would be warranted. Okay.
And then Mr. Bendis, we talked about improving the R&D tax or research and development tax credit. I'm wondering if there are specific states that are exceptionally good at this, or they have a better R&D than other states that we could model our legislation at, or at least look to for ideas?
As I mentioned, there are 38 states, and a number of them have modeled their programs based on what the earlier states have done and tried to improve them. I know that New Jersey has done some modifications recently. Pennsylvania has a very aggressive program. But I think it would be very easy, and the State Science and Technology Institute, which is a technology-based economic development national association working with these kind of organizations in all 50 states, could very easily summarize for you in this committee what some of the best practices are and what some of the improvements have been made, as well as the National Association of Seed and Venture Capital. We'd be glad to work with the committee to look at what some of the innovative things are that are occurring in the states that may benefit this legislation as you're trying to either extend or make it permanent. And I don't know if it's too late, but it's never too late to look at constant improvements, and I think that the platforms of innovation are really occurring in the state level. So how do you take advantage of some of the things that they've learned from best practices that can be incorporated at a federal level? Mm-hmm. And we'd be glad to work with you on that.
Well, I don't think it's too late. I mean, that's why we're having the hearings, so we can get ideas and feedback and ways to improve. So, very good. Thank you all for your traveling here, and most importantly for putting up with our very crazy schedule. Welcome to Congress.